There is an hour before the world starts asking things from you, before messages arrive, before opinions rush in, before the day begins pulling at your sleeve. It is a quiet hour, but it is not empty. It is charged. And the people who know how to build real wealth, not just money that arrives fast and disappears faster, learn how to meet that hour on purpose. Success is not a sprint. It is a rhythm of alignment that often begins before the sun rises. Not because early mornings are magical by themselves, and not because waking up at 5 automatically makes you wise, disciplined, or rich. It is deeper than that. There is a kind of wealth that only trusts calm hands. There is a kind of increase that only stays with people who have learned not to live in reaction. That is what this is about. So today, I want to give you something I call the Kairos routine. Not a trendy routine, not another productivity performance. A rhythm, a sacred first hour that helps you sync your spirit with heaven's timing and prepare your hands for increase. Stay with me, because the point is not to become impressive before breakfast. The point is to become internally ordered before life gets loud. And maybe this matters to you more than you think, because a lot of people are not failing from laziness. They are failing from fragmentation. They wake up already divided. Their body is in one place, their thoughts in another, their attention already owned by strangers. Then they wonder why the whole day feels borrowed. Look at what usually happens. The alarm goes off, and before your feet touch the floor, your nervous system is already negotiating with noise, messages, news, deadlines, a little flash of comparison, a small wave of dread, someone else's emergency, someone else's success, someone else's opinion of what matters today. It happens so fast that it feels normal. But normal is not the same as healthy. The first few minutes of the day are not neutral. They train you. They tell your mind what role it is playing. If you start the morning by reacting, you practice being managed. If you start the morning by consuming, you practice receiving the world on the world's terms. That may not sound dramatic, but repeat it for a year and it becomes a personality. Repeat it for a decade and it becomes a life. This is why so many people feel busy and strangely powerless at the same time. They are moving, but not directing. They are doing, but not governing. They are exhausted, yet their exhaustion has no dignity to it because it was spent serving disorder. That is the quiet tragedy of a reactive morning. It doesn't just steal time, it steals authorship. Be honest for a second. How often have you felt behind before the day had even properly begun? How often has your body been in the kitchen while your mind was already in 3 imaginary arguments and 2 unfinished tasks? That feeling is not always a sign that you need more effort. Sometimes it is a sign that your inner world opened its doors too early. And here is where the shift begins. Wealthy people, and I mean people who truly know how to carry increase, tend to understand something that others learn late. Clarity is often more valuable than speed. Stillness is not the opposite of progress. It is often the doorway to precise progress. A quiet first hour can do more for your future than 3 frantic hours later in the day. The ancient idea of Kairos is different from ordinary clock time. Clock time measures sequence. Kairos speaks to the appointed moment, the right moment, the moment that carries weight beyond the minutes it contains. In other words, not every hour is equal. Some hours decide the emotional texture of the next 12. Some moments set the tone for everything that follows. The early morning can become that kind of moment if you stop treating it like dead air. That is why the Billionaire's morning rhythm, at its best, is not really about ambition. It is about governance. It is not about waking early to prove moral superiority to people who sleep later. It is about creating internal order before external opportunity arrives. It is about becoming the kind of person who can recognize what matters because you were not drowning in noise when it appeared. Think about an airport runway in heavy fog. If the lights are not clear, even a skilled pilot struggles to land well. Your morning is like that runway. It is not the plane, and it is not the destination, but it determines whether what is meant for you can land cleanly. Let that settle for a moment. A lot of people are asking for bigger opportunities while keeping their runway cluttered. So let's begin where this rhythm really begins, with the sacred hour itself. This may be the part that sounds least productive, and that is exactly why it matters. Stillness is one of the most misunderstood forms of productivity, because stillness does not give immediate evidence. It does not ping. It does not perform. It does not let you brag that you cleared 20 messages before sunrise. But stillness does something more important. It gathers your scattered interior and returns it to your own hands. When the house is quiet and the street outside is still deciding whether it wants to wake up, you get access to your unedited self. Before the role, before the posture, before the day starts asking you to become useful in visible ways. That quiet does not make you less effective. It reveals what kind of effectiveness is actually needed. A lot of people are afraid of stillness because stillness removes distraction, and distraction has become a kind of painkiller. When things are quiet, unresolved feelings step forward. Grief you postponed, fatigue you renamed, being busy, anxiety that looked manageable as long as you kept moving. But that is exactly why stillness is sacred. Tells the truth without humiliating you. It lets you see what is really going on before your unaddressed inner state starts making decisions for you. Picture a snow globe after it has been shaken. That is how many people wake up mentally. Thoughts everywhere. Tiny fragments floating in every direction. Stillness is what allows the flakes to settle so you can finally see what is inside the glass. And once you can see clearly, the day stops feeling like a storm and starts feeling like territory. In ordinary life, this looks simple. It looks like sitting with your coffee before anyone else is awake. It looks like not touching your phone for a few minutes. It looks like staring out the window longer than your impatient mind thinks is reasonable. It looks like prayer without rushing it. It looks like letting silence become a room, not a threat. That is not laziness. That is calibration. Ask yourself this. When was the last time your mind was quiet enough to hear your own life accurately? Not your panic about your life. Not your performance of your life. Your life. If that question feels uncomfortable, you may have just found the reason this sacred hour matters so much. And once the mind begins to quiet, the next thing you need is remembrance, because stillness creates space, but remembrance fills that space with something true. The beginning of a good morning is not information. It is orientation. Before you remember tasks, remember who you are. Before you remember what is incomplete, remember what has already been carried. Gratitude is not decorative. It is stabilizing. It reminds the soul that life is not beginning from lack every single day. There is something deeply powerful about naming what is already good before the world has a chance to tell you what is missing. A warm room, breath in your lungs, a second chance, wisdom you have gained through pain, the fact that you are not who you were last year, the fact that certain doors closed, And in hindsight, that closure was mercy. Gratitude is not pretending everything is easy. It is refusing to let difficulty become the only thing that speaks. And remembrance goes deeper than listing blessings. Remembrance is spiritual anchoring. It is saying, before the noise starts, I know whose I am. I know what kind of spirit I want to carry today. I know what I am not available for. That changes a person. Keeps you from letting every random demand rename you. You can feel the difference in ordinary moments. The parent who starts the day in gratitude corrects a child differently. The leader who starts the day in remembrance walks into a meeting with less need to dominate. The person who remembers what has already been done for them does not grip every outcome like a clenched fist. There is less panic in them, more substance. Gratitude is like putting weight in the bottom of a vase before the wind arrives. Without it, the first strong gust can tip you. With it, the same wind passes and you remain standing. So before you review goals, before you chase momentum, pause and ask yourself, what truth do I need to remember this morning so I do not spend the day negotiating with lies? Now let me interrupt this gently with a question that sounds small, but it exposes more than people expect. What is the first thing you look at when you wake up? Really think about it. Is it your phone? The time? A notification count? Your partner beside you? The ceiling while your mind starts rehearsing pressure? The face of an unfinished day? That first gaze matters. Eyes are not just passive. They are directional. The first thing you behold in the morning has a strange way of becoming your emotional weather. If the first thing you see is a stream of demands, your inner world begins in contraction. If the first thing you see is comparison, your heart starts the day slightly bent. If the first thing you see is bad news, your body receives it before your wisdom has even clocked in. We underestimate the spiritual seriousness of attention. But attention is expensive. Wherever it goes first, energy follows. Think of your attention like the opening of a store. Whatever enters first gets premium shelf space. That is why some mornings feel hijacked before breakfast. The wrong thing got the front window. A stranger's urgency. A market of opinions. A digital hallway where everyone is shouting. And your own soul, the one actually responsible for carrying today well, got pushed into the back room. This is not about shame. It is about design. You may not be able to control every demand that reaches you later, but you can often decide what gets your first look. Cup in your hands. Morning light. A page in your journal. A verse. The quiet. A simple prayer. Order me before the world reaches me. That first look can become a first agreement. Try this tomorrow. Before your eyes lock onto the screen, let them rest somewhere that returns you to yourself. A window. Your hands. A written reminder near the bed. Let your sight become a doorway back to alignment, not a conveyor belt into agitation. Then ask yourself a harder question. What has been discipling my mornings without my permission? Once your attention is back in the room, you are ready for one of the most practical parts of the Kairos hour, mental mapping. Because clarity is generous, but it can be brief. If you do not catch it when it arrives, it often evaporates. Some of the best direction you receive will not come as thunder. It will come as a sentence, a nudge, a picture in your mind, the name of someone you need to call, a business idea that looks small at first, a realization about what needs to change, a phrase that answers a question you have been carrying for months. These things are subtle. The problem is not that insight is absent. The problem is that insight is quiet. and noise is loud. That is why writing matters in the morning. You are not trying to produce literature. You are catching dew before the sun burns it off. There are impressions that visit the early hours and do not stay long once the machinery of the day begins. Write them down before your practical mind talks you out of them. Write the thought, the feeling, the instruction, the connection, the image, especially if it seems a little too simple. Simplicity is often where real guidance hides. Call them ideas, downloads, impressions, promptings, whatever language feels honest to you. The point is that your life leaves clues in the quiet. Heaven often speaks in seeds, not fully grown trees. A single line written at 5:17 in the morning can become a strategic decision at 11:40. A name in your notebook can become a partnership months later. A sentence that felt personal can become the principle that steadies your entire quarter. Ground this in real life. How many times have you had a clear thought in the morning and then lost it completely by lunch? It happens because the mind is not built to store every living insight while juggling 10 inputs at once. Writing is not weakness. It is stewardship. A notebook beside the chair is often more powerful than a mind trying to act impressive. A journal in the morning is like placing bowls under a leaking roof during rain. You are not creating the water. You are simply making sure it is not wasted. So here is the reflection I want to leave with you. What wisdom has visited you repeatedly, only to leave because you never gave it a page? Now, once the spirit has been anchored and the mind has started to clear, there is another layer that people ignore at their own cost. The body. You cannot build a decisive day on a dysregulated nervous system. A lot of people think they have a time management problem when they really have a body state problem. Their mind is sharp enough. Their goals are clear enough. But their system is carrying static. Their breathing is shallow. Their shoulders are already tight. Their jaw is set before the first conversation. Then every email feels more urgent than it is. Every delay feels personal. And every decision costs too much energy. Regulation is not soft. It is strategic. A calm nervous system is not a luxury item for people with extra time. It is one of the strongest competitive advantages a human being can have. Because a regulated person sees accurately, they do not inflate every inconvenience into a crisis. They do not confuse adrenaline with importance. They can discern. This does not have to be complicated. Drink water slowly instead of like you are catching up to your own life. Breathe long enough for your body to realize there is no fire. Stretch your spine. Feel your feet on the floor. Step outside for 2 minutes and let natural light tell your brain that the day has actually begun. Pray while walking. Loosen your chest. Let your exhale be longer than your inhale. Small things, done intentionally, can bring your body back into partnership with your calling. Notice how different a regulated morning feels in ordinary situations. Traffic still exists, but it does not enter you as invasion. A difficult conversation still has to happen, but you do not arrive already sharpened like a knife. You can say no without guilt. You can wait 5 more minutes without spiraling. You can choose the important thing over the loud thing. That is wealth too. An unregulated nervous system is like trying to write a careful letter in the back of a moving truck. Even if you know what you want to say, the shaking ruins the line. So pause here and ask yourself something honest. Do I want a powerful day, or do I just want a stimulated day? Those are not the same life. And that leads to another necessary interruption. Recalibrate this with me. Is your morning for consumption or cultivation? That question sounds simple until you sit with it. Consumption means the first hour belongs to input. News, feeds, opinions, content, updates, headlines, trends, everyone else's interpretation of reality. Cultivation means the first hour belongs to formation. Prayer, writing, remembering, planning, breathing, listening, building. One fills you with material. The other shapes the kind of person who can use material wisely. Here is the danger with consumption-first mornings. They create borrowed desires. You wake up not knowing what your day is actually asking from you, and within minutes you are carrying cravings and concerns that did not begin in your own life. Someone else's success makes you restless. Someone else's outrage makes you tense. Someone else's marketing makes you feel behind. By 7:15, you are already working for needs you never chose. Cultivation is slower at first, but far more profitable over time. It is like tending soil instead of buying plastic fruit. Soil asks for patience. It looks unimpressive while you are doing it, but eventually it feeds you. Plastic fruit photographs well and nourishes nothing. Many people have beautiful-looking mornings from the outside and hollow ones from the inside. They have consumed inspiration without forming substance. In practical terms, this means your morning should not start with the feed. It should start with the field, your spirit, your assignments, your household, your next faithful step. There is no prize for being updated on everything if you are internally unavailable for what is yours to build. Think of your mind like a garden with no fence at sunrise. If you open the gate to the whole internet before you have planted anything intentional, do not be surprised when stranger seeds are growing in your soil by noon. So ask yourself plainly, what has my morning been producing in me lately? Depth or dependency? Now let's make this concrete, because a beautiful philosophy with no rhythm attached to it quickly becomes another thing people admire and never practice. So here is the Kairos rhythm, the first 60 minutes that can quietly change the structure of your day. When you first wake, protect the first 5 minutes like they belong to someone important, because they do. Do not grab the phone. Sit up slowly. Put both feet on the floor. Take a full breath. Drink water. Let the body know you are arriving deliberately, not being thrown into the day. Even this small beginning carries authority. From minute 5 to minute 15, enter stillness. Sit in one place. Keep the lights soft if you can. No scrolling. No multitasking. Pray. Listen. Let your thoughts settle. If a thought comes that matters, do not chase it yet. Just notice it. The goal here is not intensity. The goal is presence. From minute 15 to minute 25, practice remembrance and gratitude. Speak or write what is true. Thank God for what has been sustained, corrected, healed, protected, and provided. Remind yourself of your identity before the world offers alternative labels. This is where the soul gets its footing. From minute 25 to minute 35, capture the downloads. Open the notebook. Write what came up in stillness. Ideas, warnings, names, clarity about what matters today. The one thing you need to stop avoiding. The opportunity you need to prepare for. The conversation you need to have. Nothing polished, just caught. From minute 35 to minute 45, regulate the body. Stretch, breathe, step outside, walk and pray. Move enough to tell your nervous system that you are safe, awake, and available. Let the body become an ally instead of an afterthought. This part matters more than people realize because the body often decides what the mind can sustain. From minute 45 to minute 60, review the day with quiet strategy. Not a giant list that makes you feel falsely productive. Just identify the vital few. What actually matters today? What would make this day meaningful, even if everything else shifted? Who needs your best attention? What can wait? What is noise? This is where order begins to touch the calendar. And when you finish that hour, do not rush out of it like you are leaving a sacred room for a lesser life. Carry the tone with you. The point of the Kairos hour is not to create a spiritual island disconnected from the rest of your schedule. The point is to seed the entire day with a different quality of presence. You can hear it in the way you answer people. You can feel it in how quickly you recover from interruption. You can see it in the speed with which you recognize what is actually important. Quiet authority is not loud. It does not need dramatic announcements. It is simply the ability to move through noise without becoming noisy inside. A person who has met themselves in the morning does not spend the whole day trying to locate themselves in other people's reactions. That alone changes business, relationships, parenting, leadership, and money. When your inner state is less negotiable, your decisions become cleaner. You stop over-explaining. You stop volunteering for chaos to prove value. You stop confusing urgency with importance. Watch someone with quiet authority in an ordinary afternoon. Their schedule may still be full. Problems still arise. A deal changes. A child melts down. A meeting gets tense. But something in them remains seated. They are not limp, and they are not passive. They are present. Their center is not up for sale every 15 minutes. That steadiness is rare, and rare things tend to be valuable. This is where the routine starts becoming more than self-care. It becomes infrastructure. A bridge is not admired because it is emotional. It is admired because it can carry weight without collapsing. Your morning is building that kind of hidden strength. Not glamorous strength, useful strength. And once you begin living this way, something subtle happens. You start noticing how many outcomes are shaped long before the visible moment arrives. The good decision at 2 p.m. often began with stillness at 5 a.m. The wise no often began with gratitude before sunrise. The opportunity you recognized in the afternoon was recognized because your mind was not overcrowded when it appeared. This is why sustainable wealth has a different texture than sudden gain. Sudden gain can land on a disordered life and still look impressive for a little while. Sustainable wealth asks a harder question. Can you hold what comes? Can your spirit remain intact when more responsibility arrives? Can your body carry visibility without collapsing into stress? Can your attention stay clean when more doors open? Money is not the only form of increase, but it reveals a lot. So do leadership, influence, reach, and responsibility. They all magnify what is already there. If your mornings are scattered, more opportunity can simply make you a more well-funded version of scattered. But if your mornings are ordered, increase has somewhere stable to land. That is the build-up nobody celebrates on social media. The invisible architecture, the hour no one claps for, the small cup of coffee going cold beside an open notebook, the quiet prayer that never becomes a quote card, the breath that keeps you from making a fear-based decision, the simple refusal to let the phone dictate your first thoughts. This is how lives become trustworthy. And here is the turning point. The Kairos hour begins changing everything when you stop treating it like a technique and start treating it like an appointment. A technique is something you use when it benefits you. An appointment is something you honor because it is shaping who you are. If this remains a trick to get more done, you will abandon it as soon as the results are not immediate. But if it becomes sacred, if it becomes the place where you return to truth, to regulation, to remembrance, to strategy, then even imperfect mornings begin carrying power. This is where many people miss the heart of it. They think the goal is to wake up earlier. It is not. The goal is to wake up present. Some people wake at 5 and are still spiritually absent. Others wake at 6:30 and meet the hour honestly. The principle is not legalistic. The principle is intentionality. The billionaire's rhythm is not ultimately about the clock. It is about refusing to let the world touch you before wisdom does. And that changes how you see abundance. Abundance is not just more. It is more without self-loss. More without hurry eating your soul. More without the constant hum of panic. More with the capacity to discern, to enjoy, to direct, to stay human while carrying responsibility. That kind of abundance has a spiritual center. It is not built on adrenaline. It is built on alignment. So the question is no longer, how do I become the kind of person who wakes early? The better question is, what part of my life becomes possible when my mornings stop belonging to chaos? Sit with that, because the answer may be more personal than financial. It may be your peace, your marriage, your focus, your courage, your clarity around what you should stop chasing. And now we reach the deepest part of this. The climax is not that you have mastered a routine. The climax is that you have recovered a kind of inner government the modern world quietly tried to train out of you. There is an hour before the world fully wakes, and in that hour you are not yet surrounded by requests, branding, expectations, opinions, and performance. You are simply a soul in a room with breath, light, memory, and possibility. That hour asks a profound question. Who are you before the day starts negotiating with you? If you can answer that question consistently, not with arrogance, but with grounded clarity, you become difficult to manipulate. You become harder to rush, harder to bait, harder to fracture. Opportunities no longer dazzle you into foolishness because you have already practiced discernment before breakfast. Pressure no longer impresses you so easily because your body has already learned the shape of peace. This is why the people who seem to carry significant responsibility will often feel different around you. They are not just smarter. They are often less internally crowded. There is space in them. Their yes has weight. Their no has peace in it. Their day is not perfect, but they move through it with a kind of unadvertised authority. That authority was not improvised in the middle of chaos. It was formed in hiddenness. Imagine the sunrise touching a room that has already been prayed in, written in, breathed in, and ordered. Imagine starting the day not like prey but like a steward. Imagine your first hour not as something stolen from sleep, but as a private meeting with your own future. That is what this rhythm can become. Not a burden, a blessing with structure. And no, this does not mean every morning will be cinematic. Some mornings will be dry. Some will feel ordinary. Some will be interrupted by children, travel, fatigue, or the simple fact that life is alive. But even then, the principle remains. Protect the first moments you can. Return when you miss a day. Do not turn this into perfectionism. Turn it into loyalty, because over time, loyalty creates momentum. Momentum creates trust. Trust creates capacity. And capacity is what sustainable wealth requires. Not hype, not scattered ambition. Capacity, the ability to receive more without becoming less yourself. The ability to move with heaven's timing instead of chasing every glittering thing that flashes in front of you. So tomorrow morning, do not try to become a new person in one dramatic sweep. Just reclaim the first hour, or the first 30 minutes if that is where you must start honestly. Sit down before the day stands over you. Breathe before the noise names you. Remember before the pressure edits your identity. Write before the insight fades. Regulate before the demands arrive. Then step into the day carrying quiet authority. That is the Kairos hour. And if this message met you at the right time, subscribe to win your mornings, because that is where more lives are either gathered or lost than people like to admit. If you want to go deeper, join my Kairos Circle community, where we build this kind of rhythm with real intention. And if you want something practical in your hands right away, download the Kairos Morning Routine checklist and use it tomorrow before the world gets loud. Your mornings do not have to begin in reaction. They can begin in alignment. And when they do, increase stops feeling like something you chase and starts feeling like something you are finally able to carry.